Club Penguin has come and gone. First as like a online virtual world for kids of all ages to play and have fun, shut down, and then it came back unofficially, and then also really quickly shut down because I guess kids of all ages also included actual child predators. But for the brief time it was up, I and many of my friends all nostalgically returned to the Club Penguin we all knew and grew up with. So for this video, I kind of want to look back at specifically how the game taught me to understand capitalism and the commodity. So Club Penguin is what Eric M. Myers calls a commercial world. It is a virtual environment where the online world is itself the product. But it's also a world that includes within it a market. It includes stores with prices, a way of making money. It has in itself an understanding of labor and an understanding of commodities. It's kind of weird to think of the snail costume I bought as a commodity, but it clearly is. Like, even though it was bought with virtual currency, I earned and exchanged that currency, and even though it appears to me, the player consumer, as just a collection of pixels on a screen, it was still designed by someone. Like, the snail costume still holds a material quality, even though it is presented to me as immaterial. The costume still holds the labor value of the people who made it. But in online spaces like Club Penguin, the player can't really be allowed to figure out these labor relations because the way labor works is already accounted for within the game law. This is what labor is in Club Penguin, not this. So it's pretty easy to argue that Club Penguin is gamified capitalism in one of its purest forms. You play the minigame to get coins, to buy stuff, rinse, repeat. But all of this is taking place in a really intricately designed game world. And I learned recently that there is a lot of Club Penguin lore, like a lot. It's a very intricate universe with a full wiki and history and characters and world events. You can even submit your own penguin as a character to the wiki, which is neat. It's cool. But something the lore doesn't account for is where the stuff you buy comes from. Like, who buys the pizza ingredients? Who's paying me to do backflips on a minecart? And who's throwing all these beans out of this truck? Is it this guy? If so, can't he just wait until I've put the beans away before fucking crushing my spine with an anvil? And the answer is no, he can't wait, because he doesn't exist. Because the commodities, the products you buy in Club Penguin aren't produced by anyone. No penguin produces the commodities. They don't exist. It doesn't matter. It's just a game. The stuff you buy, along with the market that distributes them, is all virtual, and therefore seemingly infinitely renewable, unless there's in-law penguin sweatshops. So the stuff you buy in the Club Penguin game world exists completely independent from any type of production. They only exist to be bought, never to be made, which is really interesting because for a child playing the game, what's that teaching them? Let's talk about Marx. Commodity fetishism. So we've got the commodity, which is the thing, and the fetishism, which is the process of ascribing a magical, religious, spectral property to a thing. It's not immediately sexual like the word insinuates, but it's magic, religion, sex, it's all intertwined. Condensed down, Marx sees commodity fetishism as the process of seeing the product of labor in terms of the relationship between things, not people. So when we walk into a Nike shoe store, the Nike shoe is presented to us without a history, and it's assumed to have a magical innateness to it. Buy it and people will be like, whoa, you got some cool fashion sense, or man, you bet you can run real fast with those shoes. the shoe and the shoe store doesn't want you to think about like who dug the crude oil out of the ground and what machine made that oil into plastic and which unpaid slave child assembled that fabric and plastic into a shoe. So yeah, commodity fetishism is the process by which capitalism tries to hide away the way the thing is made. Crude definition, sure, but the readings in the description, just do some more research than me. So by the very structure of the Club Penguin virtual market, these mechanisms of commodity production simply don't exist. For the player within the virtual world, commodities in Club Penguin can only relate to them. And remember, this doesn't mean that virtual commodities are immaterial. They are still designed, hosted on a server which consumes electricity, and then there's like the gigantic cooling units which have to keep the server cold, which eat up even more electricity. Did you know that data centers are responsible for like 1% of the entire world's power usage? We're penguins and we're in a club. We're penguins and we're in a club. What global capitalism does is it tries to obscure the materiality of these products. And in Club Penguin is kind of like a kid-friendly version of that, where we hold the false idea of an abundance of goods, where things are just infinitely renewable. You walk through a Target and there's just clothes and clothes and clothes and clothes, and it doesn't matter where they come from or if they have enough or who they're made by. It's just something that you can buy that will probably be replaced. We live in a place where the production of those goods is outsourced. It happens in some fucking horrible Chinese sweatshop. But we're not supposed to think about that. We're just penguins, and we're just in a club. Club Penguin is a place of socialization, not work. So Club Penguin is advertised as a social game, but the gameplay is always rewarded with the promise of some digital commodity. Get the coins, buy the stuff. But most of the stuff has no real practical use. It's usually just cosmetic. And the items that do have practical use, like the jackhammer, force you to strip down to use them. Club Penguin commodities are purely aesthetic. That is, they are only to be worn and seen. So what this structure does is fetishize the digital commodity with the allure of socialization. So we can see Club Penguin as social in the same way a dollhouse is. The people, the penguins, the dolls, the beings that live in that world are immediately defined by the products they wear. It's a situation where economic and cultural capital kind of start to blend into each other. Guy Debord in Society of the Spectacle talks about the way that commodities affect social being. He argues that social life is the decline of being into having, and having into merely appearing. Debord is one of those like real angry 60s French Marxists. Sometimes he can come across as a bit like, we're all brainwashed by the man. I mean, it's fun, but maybe a bit much sometimes. But I do think this metaphor of being become appearance is really relevant, especially in a discussion of online space and virtual identity. Because what is your virtual self but a commodified representation of you? Take social media. Facebook isn't free. It advertises itself as free, but it's not. You pay to use Facebook with your data. You sell your virtual identity. So Debord would argue that that identity isn't really you, but a commodity that looks like you. So in online consumer game worlds like Club Penguin, Habbo Hotel, Webkins, Fortnite, the world is presented to you as openly social, but your social being is always mediated by your player's appearance. And of course, you can play something like Club Penguin without a membership, without paying real cash. You can also interact with penguins completely nude, but no one's really going to take you seriously. But if you had membership, maybe you could dress up in something snazzy. Maybe host an igloo party. You could buy the appearance of someone popular. This is commodity fetishism. The clothes, the furniture, the puffles, the penguin commodities are all advertised with the promise of unique social expression. Buy the stuff, hang out with friends. So this kind of sucks because it conflates individual expression of identity with the shit you buy. But it's not like the businesses that own these virtual worlds don't recognize this. In fact, the fetishism of virtual commodities as cultural capital is central to the way the game makes cash. It's the reason you beg your parents to buy you V-Bucks or memberships or webkins. You want to fit in as a player. So, of course, Dan Olsen talks about the way that the Fortnite default player model constantly changes as a way of desubjectification. So if you haven't leveled up or can't afford cash, your Fortnite identity is constantly alienated, essentially punishing you for not spending cash. Your appearance and your social being is itself commodified. So I played Club Penguin for years without membership. But I played it in a way that I don't think the game designers intended. Like, of course they intend you to buy the thing, and the whole system is set to encourage you to spend cash. But occasionally they had these like one-off events, like, you know, scavenger hunts or parties, these strategies to get a mass influx of players online. These events usually offered like some sort of free cosmetic item, and what I did, and I'm sure many others did, was play enough to just build a catalog of free cosmetics. So my penguin had like a cute little sailor hat and like a mailman's bag, and it was cool. It wasn't as extravagant as the membership items, but you know, it was still something that I had worked for in a way. And I didn't pay real money for it either. Screw you, Disney, I'm living off the penguin welfare state. But I was still subscribing to this allure of identity as appearance. I still wanted that membership. I wanted that igloo, and I wanted the black puffle because it was sick, it was popular, it was cool. The having of the stuff is all you need to socialize in Club Penguin. And that's what Club Penguin taught me. Like, if you want to be cool, you gotta buy stuff. Thanks, Disney.
Hey guys, this is a song from Club Penguin by DJ Candence and the Penguin Band, and it's my favorite song and my favorite game. I wonder what's that funky sound from along the way. Now the bass is thumping loud and my head begins to sway. Now I just can't help myself following the beat. Pull back through my feet, just move to the igloo down the street. And the DJ says to me, bring your friends and good vibes, it's the best on ice. And it's gonna be a biggie, there's a party in my iggy. Step left and bend to the right, clap hands and then just fly. And it's gonna be a biggie, there's a party in my iggy. Marcella's blowing up about this epic jam, leaving message after message saying get here man, to the iggy that glows like neon snow. There's a party at my iggy and we're all gonna go. Bring your friends and good vibes, it's the best on ice. So then to the right, clap hands and then just fly. Bring your friends and good vibes, it's the best on ice. Step left and bend to the right.